This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Good evening, I'm Vernon Ramazar. Halifax police are investigating after another man was found dead at a tent encampment. Police say they responded to a call Thursday afternoon at a designated site in Dartmouth. They found the body of a 56-year-old man inside a tent. Police say an autopsy will be done to determine the exact cause of death. In the meantime, they are not releasing any more details. This is the third man in his 50s to die under similar circumstances within the last few weeks. On November the 26th, William Walsh died in a tent in Windsor. A week later, Bobby Hiltz was found dead in a park in Kentville known as Miners Marsh. A Halifax lacrosse player has been cited for assault after an incident at a game in Denver, Colorado. As the CBC's Luke Ettinger reports, the player has been suspended and the National Lacrosse League is investigating.
Video shows a Halifax Thunderbirds player throwing a punch and swinging his lacrosse stick at fans as he leaves the floor following a loss to the Colorado Mammoth last weekend. On Thursday, the team suspended Tyson Bell. The 30-year-old is due in a Denver courthouse on January 22nd.
A player going into the stands or into off of the floor to fight a fan or to, attack a fan is not really something that happens in pro sports ever. And when it does, it tends to be a very, very big deal.
The National Lacrosse League has also launched an investigation. Arestia says what happened is inexcusable, but fiery players like Bell often bear the brunt of insults hurled from the stands.
Plenty of guys will probably tell you, yeah, there are times where people cross the line yelling at us or heckling us. And you do want to kind of go in there and straighten somebody out, but you can't do it. You just cannot do it. So sometimes events like these lead to a conversation about the way fans can treat players at games.
The Thunderbirds made their league debut in 2019. Arestia says they have struggled in the postseason, and the Bell incident comes after another player attempted to climb out of the penalty box to confront a fan a year ago.
And it kind of leaves you wondering, like, well, what's going on with this team then? Is it a locker room thing? Is it a culture thing? And, this incident is going to be something people point to and saying maybe there is a culture problem here.
Arestia says there are strong players left on the roster as the team looks to curb a 3-game losing streak to start the season. The team is closing off the calendar year here at home with the game against the Albany Firewolves on Saturday at 7 p.m. Luke Ettinger, CBC News, Halifax.
A Halifax business professor says the federal government's 2-month tax break has made some difference for shoppers, but not in any significant way. Ottawa's GST holiday took effect mid-December, removing the tax from certain items such as toys, alcohol, and restaurant meals. With Canada's high inflation rate and cost of living, many families are looking for some relief on their wallets. But a professor at Dalhousie and St. Mary's Universities believes overall the tax break won't change people's spending habits.
I do think some people benefited from it. I can say that myself, even buying some products like fast food, when you get the bill and there's no tax on it whatsoever, you're kind of surprised and even a little bit happy. Do I think it made a major dent? I don't think so. I don't think, especially around Christmas, people are going to buy what they want to buy.
McHugh said big box stores stand to benefit most from increased consumer spending as a result of the GST break, while it could be more of a headache for small businesses. Well, more than 200 years ago, a shipwreck claimed the greatest number of lives ever lost in Halifax Harbour. It was also witness to an act of heroism that a Halifax writer says became a hallmark of the willingness of Maritimers to help others in distress. The hero became known as Joe Cracker. I went over to Herring Cove to find out more. In Herring Cove, a weathered signpost marks Joe Cracker Road. A short distance away at the end of an overgrown path, a plaque on the rocky headland of Tribune Head tells a story of extraordinary courage, the heroism of a 13-year-old boy in November 1797.
So the mainmast collapsed. It had 40 people on it, and only 8 managed to swim back to the wreckage of the mast. And people were just dropping off over the hours.
John Dickey's book, Age of Heroes, tells that story. A story he says defines the Nova Scotia tradition of self-sacrifice to help others. HMS Tribune, originally a French ship that was captured by the British the year before, tried to enter Halifax Harbour. There were 220 souls on board. It was the might of its day, like the modern frigate HMCS St. John's sailing past today, but a quarter of the size. Near McNabb's Island, then known as Cornwallis Island, about 4 kilometers from here, the Tribune ran aground. A ferocious nor'easter rolled in as the Tribune was eventually freed by the tide. Its rudder damaged, it was no match for the storm. The ship was driven relentlessly towards the rocks of Herring Cove. In an act of desperation, the ship dropped an anchor.
It didn't hold, and the ship was driven into these rocks, and it sank very, very quickly, leaving just the mast sticking out of the ocean.
Villagers lit bonfires along the shore. They could see the survivors clinging to the wreckage, but feared the raging sea. All night they waited. By morning, just a few clung desperately to the mast. That's when a 13-year-old boy, armed with nothing but his small boat and boundless courage, made his move.
He was just a boy. He was only able to bring back the two, and it would have been exhausting. So he tried to go back out for more, but he couldn't. But that shamed the adults into going back and actually taking action.
The boy became known as Joe Cracker. But Dickie's research revealed his likely true identity, John Davis Jr. Dickie believes the boy's courage shaped a legacy.
It was a significant event. It resonated with the people of Nova Scotia for a very long time, and people were very familiar and celebrated the heroism of Joe Cracker right into the 20th century.
Only 8 people were rescued from the wreck. Their story and the lives that were lost lives on that small plaque down an unmarked trail. Vernon Ramisar, CBC News, Herring Cove. And it's time now for our first quick look at the weather with Jay Scotland at the CBC Weather Centre. Well, Jay, with a pretty nice day today here, what's the weekend shaping up like?
It feels like it should be a Monday, but we are heading into a weekend. Of course, this is Friday, Vern, and not too bad. We'll be a little on the chilly side away from the water tonight. Temperatures will be a big range from coastal to inland. So inland areas could be closer to -10. Coastal areas, -4, -5 is maybe what you'll see. So we'll draw a line down the middle, and depending on how far from the water you are, we'll say -8, maybe a bit warmer if you're closer to the water. As we get into tomorrow morning, you may see mainly sunny start to the day, partly cloudy conditions mid-morning into the afternoon, and clouds will begin to increase as we look into the evening hours. Could see towards midnight, Saturday into Sunday, some freezing drizzle as a warm front approaches, and we'll talk about what that means for our temperatures in the long range in just a bit, Vern.
Thanks very much, Jay. We'll check back with you a little bit later. The town of Yarmouth is paying tribute to 2 immigrant communities that have had a big impact on the town's history. A new museum exhibit is highlighting members of the Jewish and Lebanese communities. As Sabrina Fabian explains, the story goes beyond coexistence. It's about mutual respect and support.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
In a different time and place, their friendship may be unlikely. But here, Patty Durkee and Joe Beshara have a common goal.
I think about the man who came here and cried when he saw what we had done.
This was the first installment.
For several years, they've been working to mount an exhibit highlighting the history of their respective communities in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. One Jewish, one Lebanese, their families have lived here for generations.
So we get to figure out who's who.
It's a story not only of coexistence, but of a long-lasting relationship of mutual respect and support. Minorities living a common experience in a rural town in an increasingly polarized world. And as the tensions in the Middle East draw divisions, Patty and Joe are coming together. Yarmouth and its maritime history run deep. A long-time fishing community, it was once one of Canada's most prominent ports, and at the turn of the 20th century, immigrants from the Middle East and Europe arrived, including about 35 Jewish and 20 Lebanese families.
Hi, Joe.
Joe Beshara is a third-generation Lebanese Canadian.
Thank you for having us.
So I remember having the sense when I was a kid that we didn't, we were accepted in community, but we were different.
They were very poor. They had nothing.
The Besharas were part of those 20 families that arrived in search of a better life.
I haven't seen this one before.
I think for my dad's generation, the name of the game was you could be Lebanese in your house, but as soon as you step out into the street, you're Canadian, right? It's that first generation that I think that took the biggest brunt of the racialization and the discrimination.
Jizzy.
That first generation started off selling goods door to door and eventually made enough money to open a store on Main Street. They became part of the fabric of the community. Their neighbors were also merchants, also immigrants.
I grew up listening to lots of stories about the Jewish community, members of the Jewish community that were friends of the Lebanese community. We weren't members of the dominant culture of the day, and I think there was an understanding that in the midst of that difference, we could respect and support one another.
Land deeds were exchanged between Lebanese and Jews, favors extended in times of need.
My grandfather, Wilfred Bashara, was running for town council, and at one point there was some hate mail that was put on windshields of cars around town that basically espoused that a vote for the Bashara was a vote for the Lebanese mafia.
A member of the Jewish community, a lawyer, Irving Pink, offered to help him by seeking justice against the person responsible, pro bono.
Irving said something to the effect of, "Wilfred, if they're coming for you, they'll come for us too."
I'm very proud of my family. I am really proud of my heritage, actually, and to be Jewish.
Patty Durkee's grandparents also arrived in Yarmouth around the turn of the 20th century.
So this is my grandfather, Sam Lynch, and this is my grandmother, Rose. She was a Green.
They also started as salespeople, eventually establishing one of 5 menswear stores on Main Street, all Jewish-owned.
People just kept arriving because they had family or connections here.
The families weren't immune to anti-Semitism. Patty's father, seeing a wave of anti-Jewish incidents spread across Canada in 1960, wrote letters of concern to both the Premier and the Prime Minister at the time.
So this is a letter that the Prime Minister, Diefenbaker, wrote to my father, but we never knew. We didn't experience any of this growing up, or I didn't, until now.
Hamas's attack on Israel on October 7th and the spike in anti-Semitism since then isn't something Patty can ignore. Or Israel's military actions in Lebanon and Gaza that escalated tensions in the region. But here, she feels safe.
I feel that I would have people who would take care of me if anything happened, and particularly the Lebanese people. We just have that connection.
Starting an exhibit highlighting the history of immigration to Yarmouth was Patty's idea.
This is lobster fishing here and scallop fishing.
Sharing the stories she heard growing up and got reacquainted with when she moved back home after several years in Toronto. Feeling a strong connection to the land that drew her grandparents here so many years ago. It made sense to her to start with the first Jewish immigrants to arrive and to weave in those who stood by them all these years. Still in its infancy, the exhibit, which is open to the public in the summer, showcases the stories of 3 families, 1 Lebanese and 2 Jewish.
So this is what my great-grandparents would have used to make their kibbeh in. Kibbeh is a very common traditional dish within Lebanese families.
A display shows the items that were sold in the stores, now shuttered, on Main Street.
Even these wool pants, these were little boys' pants from my father's store. Archie and Duke Ellington.
Photographs, anecdotes, memorabilia.
Somebody found that in the attic.
All woven together by a unique bond that is a point of pride for the people who have brought it to light.
Bottling company.
One that is relevant now more than ever.
We have set an example for the rest of the world. And it doesn't matter what religion, what color skin you have, what your political background is. We're all just people. We're human beings.
Our world has become so polarized with you need to be on one side or the other. And the work that we're doing here and the gift of this to community and hopefully to anybody that visits it is that it serves as a counter-narrative. There can be peaceful coexistence between cultures.
Coming up, Jay will be back with the full weather forecast. See you in just a few minutes. And let's check again now with CBC meteorologist Jay Scotland for his full weather forecast. Well, Jay, what are you looking for in the next few hours and days?
Well, I love this time of year, Vern, because not only are we heading into a weekend, even though it feels like a Monday, but we actually get to take a peek all the way. It's not too often the long-range forecast goes into next year, but that falls within the next 7 days. So we'll dig into how 2025 is going to start for New Year's as well. Daytime highs today, not too bad, mild. Some of that snow that we had for Christmas, of course, a lot of melting today, and do watch maybe some fog patches developing this evening. Could see some icier conditions as well, as we're in that awkward time of year where we get some melting during the day and temperatures back below the freezing mark at night, and that may result in some icy or slippery conditions in places. Pretty quiet conditions in terms of actual weather, though, across the province today, and we'll see that quiet pattern move into the last weekend of 2024. I can't believe, as we look to Tuesday night, of course, New Year's Eve, starting Wednesday into a new year, into January 2025. But a quiet last weekend of 2024 until maybe very late in the evening on Sunday, as we do have a warm front that will be moving in. Still cool enough at the surface, warm air above us, that we could see some light precipitation that may be of the freezing variety. Some freezing drizzle, I think, late Sunday night into early Monday will be possible. As for tonight, I'm not expecting it to be this cloudy into tomorrow morning. That ridge of high pressure will keep the wind fairly calm. And I'm expecting more in the way of a partly cloudy sky or a mix of sun and cloud. And actually, for most areas away from the coast tomorrow, you may see more sun than cloud for a few hours in the morning, and then partly cloudy conditions developing into the afternoon. That ridge of high pressure sinks to our south and east through late Saturday into early Sunday. Clouds will be increasing early Sunday morning, so mainly cloudy to overcast conditions by the latter part of the day. And we do have this warm front that will be approaching from the south, so the clouds will increase, not 6 o'clock on Sunday, likely later in the evening, but as that warm air starts to override below freezing temperatures or temperatures around the freezing mark, we could be looking at a setup that may lead to some icy precipitation. So do keep that in mind late Sunday into early Monday with that warm front approaching, and temperatures into next week are going to be very mild. And we have a number of rainy days in the long-range outlook as well. So a lot of the snow that may still be on the ground after some melting, probably not going to last most of it, if not all of it, as we look to what we can expect in the week ahead. Through the overnight hours tonight, temperatures will be, again, inland areas could be -9, -10. You're seeing that in Truro. But coastal areas, -4, -5 through the overnight hours tonight. Just a few clouds through the overnight hours tonight. And then we'll see a partly cloudy sky. So breaks of sunshine or a mix of sun and cloud as we look to your Saturday tomorrow. And temperatures for the South Shore region starting to get into that warmer air a little earlier, as we look to temperatures maybe just creeping up to around the freezing mark for more northern and eastern areas. But do be mindful as we look to the freeze, the thaw, then the freeze again over the next few days into the morning times. If you're in a hurry, you got to get somewhere, maybe an ice time with the kids. Just keep in mind that there may be some icy surfaces just with the way these temperatures are kind of meandering above and back below the freezing mark. So we'll start out tomorrow. Inland areas, -9, -10. Coastal areas a bit warmer. Drawing a line down the middle with a light westerly wind for Halifax tomorrow. We look to your day planner. Just a few clouds. We'll see a partly cloudy sky into the noon hour. Light west to northwest wind may be variable at times because it's really not that strong of a wind. So generally more of a westerly direction is where we can expect that prevailing wind to be from, but it may meander, certainly for coastal areas, just being so light. And we'll see a few clouds developing late afternoon into the evening before clearing again. So partly cloudy sky late Saturday and again on Sunday. Do be mindful. We do have that chance for also on your Saturday late into the evening. We do have that chance of some icy precipitation in the form of freezing drizzle. So that's why you're seeing that cloud cover increasing late afternoon. So taking a look at the next few days, we can see that temperature will be up to around +3 for your Saturday afternoon. A little bit cooler for eastern areas, a little warmer for the South Shore region, partly cloudy sky. Mainly cloudy to overcast, and we do have that chance late Saturday and again late Sunday of some icy precipitation. And then as we get into Monday, showers, periods of rain will be possible, and lots of melting. Looking at that long-range outlook, that brings us New Year's Eve into New Year's Day, temperatures well above the freezing mark, so maybe not ideal conditions, but at least not freezing to ring in the new year. Vern?
Doesn't sound bad at all. Thanks, Jay. Coming up, a PEI teenager is training with Canada's up-and-coming soccer players in hopes of one day representing her country on the world stage. A 16-year-old soccer player from PEI is training with Canada's best young soccer players at an elite academy in British Columbia. As the CBC's Connor Lamont tells us, the young Islander wants to play for Team Canada one day.
Joelle Bader doesn't take many days off. She loves soccer and has to stay sharp. She's now playing against Canada's best young players.
It's been mind-blowing. The stadium, I've been inside BC Place, I've gotten to train on the facility. It's been mind-blowing. Just seeing what is the possibilities for the girls' sport and the growing game, it's been just incredible.
The 16-year-old is in her first season with the Vancouver Whitecaps Girls Elite Academy, which is part of a Canada Soccer National Development Centre. It brings the country's best young players together to train. The hope is that they eventually play for Team Canada.
The level out there has just been incredible. I've played with some of the best players in Canada on the youth national teams, and it's just been amazing to be in that environment where everybody's competing, everybody's working hard, and everybody wants to be the best.
Bader is one of 2 Maritimers in the academy. She says it's uncommon for players from the East Coast to make the team.
I'm so grateful to have gotten the chance to get out there and represent PEI in Atlantic Canada, because this is, I would hope I'm creating a pathway for other girls younger than me to look up to me and be like, she can do it, so can I.
And Bader's success is no surprise to her old coaches.
She'd ask me for the team balls. She wanted to take them home at night, and then I'd be driving into work the next day, and I'd see her on Simmons Field at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning before school, and she's out there practicing free kicks.
Barna first saw Bader play at the age of 12. He says he's never seen a young player with so much talent.
She always had the most fun and the most being the most competitive out there. For someone to have so much joy playing and yet be that fierce and that much of a competitor, that's really what separates her.
As for Bader, she wants to play for the national team and one day go pro. But her main goal right now is to work hard and be a role model for other young athletes. Connor Lamont, CBC News, Charlottetown.
And that's it for us tonight. Thanks for watching. Good night.